Well, welcome everyone to Love versus Hate. My name is Anne and I'm your old-fashioned nerd.
And I'm Emily, your mainstream millennial.
And on this podcast, Emily and I like to debate and we like to argue about all the things in life that we love and that we hate.
And Anne is in for a special treat today. Why?
Because as of now, when we're recording this episode, it is July 3rd, and I bet everyone out there knows what that means.
That means tomorrow is July 4th.
No. I mean, that is true. That is true. No, July 3rd, Hamilton, the original Broadway, comes out on Disney Plus, and I'm so excited, and I'm forcing Emily to watch it.
Yeah, so we've probably talked about Hamilton multiple times throughout other episodes. Anne is obsessed. She talks to me like almost every day about it, or she references Hamilton, or she sings Hamilton. Just she's in love with Hamilton, I think.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep the intro very brief, and then we're gonna go ahead and watch it. It's like almost 3 hours, which I mean that's kind of normal for a musical. I'm fine with that, but. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we watch it, though, Emily, I just want to get your perspective because Emily has never seen it. I have had the fortune of seeing it twice live, and it is phenomenal. And I've listened to the music oodles of times. So what is like your perspective on Hamilton and what is your feeling towards it as of right now?
Well, in general, I love musicals, but I don't really watch musicals that are about history, except for Hairspray. It has a little bit of history in it because it's like segregation and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But this doesn't sound like that interesting to me because of the history, and I don't really like care to know who all these people are. And it just seems like there's a lot of people. But I do know that I'm pretty sure that the whole musical is literally all singing. There's no talking ever. Or maybe there's talking very briefly.
There's one scene that is not included in the soundtrack. So there's one scene and it's like a minute. It's very brief.
Which I think is also very unique.
Yes.
So, yeah. But on the other hand, I think about like Schoolhouse Rock. When I was a kid, we learned all these songs that had to do with like the Constitution and the bills and the planets. And that stuff wasn't interesting to me, but I still remember all the lyrics to this day. So maybe I'll like it. But right now I'm like kind of on the fence.
Yeah, well, and this one is a little bit different because the songs are very, I mean, I remember them and once you listen to it enough, like it's in your heart and you sing it out. But they're different from Schoolhouse Rock where they're not super catchy. Like they're more poetic. They're rap style.
Are they like informational or like story?
Story. They're story.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a dramatization of his whole life. So it starts with him arriving in America to his death. So it covers like his whole
Spoiler
life.
alert.
Yeah,
man.
sorry.
Gosh.
Sorry. Hamilton's dead. So I'm really excited. I think it'll be interesting for Emily, who is not, because I mean the only music you've heard is what I've played for you or sung, so you never really gotten the full picture.
Yeah.
So Emily's kind of going into it, other than the little bit here and there that I've showed her. You're going into it mostly blind.
Yeah, but we did take a quiz yesterday. On BuzzFeed, there's a quiz as to where you can find which Hamilton character you are, and Anne was
Eliza Hamilton.
Eliza, and I don't remember.
Lafayette.
I was Lafayette, so I'm excited to see who Lafayette is.
Yes, he's one of my favorites. He's played by Daveed Diggs, who is one of my, I mean, I love everybody, like Lin-Manuel Miranda, Leslie Odom Jr., like everybody on this is amazing, and I'm super excited for Emily to see the original Broadway version.
Yeah, so you guys can go check out our Facebook. We'll link to the BuzzFeed article so you guys can see which character you are in Hamilton. It's not an article, it's a quiz. But yeah. Oh, and Anne told me that she made some rules for herself, or one rule.
Yeah, let's cover those real fast, and then I think we need to get into it because I'm just so excited.
Okay.
So yes, real fast rules. I promised Emily I would not sing out loud. I'll probably sing in my head, but I will not sing out loud. Except for in the musical, the cast calls out to the audience and they say, everybody sing, or everybody. And so in those two moments, I will sing those parts, but they're short and Emily can join. They're just like chords. They're just like a rhythm. You're not singing words, so everybody can join in. So Emily, you're welcome to join as well if you'd like. I will be singing.
Okay, and I will slap you if you start singing anywhere else.
I will not, I promise.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I will never get the next 3 hours of my life back.
You will love it. Trust me. Like, just go in unbiased. You will love it.
Okay.
Let's do it. 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 Oh, man.
I'm tired.
Just finished it. I was crying.
I'm exhausted.
You're exhausted.
Yeah, I'm really, that made me very tired.
Oh. Is that all you have to say?
Overall, I rate it a B-. I think the concept is cool, but it was just really hard to understand when they were talking or singing or rapping so fast. For somebody who doesn't know the background story or anything, like, it's very hard for me to remember history and all the facts and all the people and all the years and all the places. So it's very hard for me to remember things that I learned in high school or middle school or whenever I learned about the American Revolution. And that's the last time that I learned about it or had spoken about it. So, yeah, it was just very difficult to know what was going on. Like, 20 minutes into it, Anne had to pause it and tell me what was going on because I was like, I literally have no idea what is happening right now. I don't understand people unless they're singing. And I think the other thing that didn't help is the setting was the exact same for the entire musical, which is not common, I feel like. Usually, like, the background changes. Like, they changed little things, like they brought in tables and stuff into the scene, but the background of the scene was exactly the same everywhere. Which it's just not a musical that I'm used to. So I feel like I would have to watch it like 3 times in order to actually understand everything.
Yeah, and I do get that. I get that. And if you don't know the history, I can imagine that it was probably hard to keep up with for sure, because they do speak very fast. And I know, like, when I listened to it, it was even harder for me because the first time I ever listened to it, I had never seen it. So I listened to it without really even being able to distinguish some of the voices and, like, who characters were. And the first time I listened, I was kind of like, meh, that was okay. Like, I don't know why people are going crazy over this. Like, it was okay. But then I listened to it again, and then, like, you hear, like, melodies that happen at the beginning and then again at the end, and you hear, like, how they cross over, and there's so much more that you can capture and get the second time around. So I would definitely, before you say that you hate it or don't like it or it's horrible, I would recommend, it doesn't have to be now, obviously, we just finished it, but watch it again, listen to it again, and then make a determination, because like you said, it is really hard to get it all the first go around. So if you do it again, then decide if you hate it or like it.
And especially, like, the 3 guys who had 2 different roles. Like, Anne told me in the intermission, she's like, oh, just so you know, these 3 characters out of everybody else is the same, but these 3 characters actually changed. They're not the same people anymore. So just pretend that they're not them and they're different people now. And I'm like, cool. One other thing to make it even more confusing, even though, yeah, they have different outfits and they have different names, but it's just, there's a lot of people to keep track of when you don't know the history.
Yeah, if you don't, even a basic, like I don't know if you guys understand, listener, but Emily, like, did not know anything. Like, she was like, the king walked out and she's like, who's that? And I was like, King George. And she's like, okay, who's that? And so, like, I did kind of have to go, okay, the American Revolution, we were fighting Britain.
I don't even remember when I learned this. And if I did, I obviously wasn't paying attention. History is probably my worst subject. I just cannot remember anything that I learned in history class.
Oh, see, and I love history. So that's definitely somewhere where we differ a lot.
I definitely do not retain. I probably, if you ask me a week from now, like, the major things that happened, I would probably be like, oh, yeah, Hamilton cheated on his wife over and over and over and over and over again, and then he got caught. And then
yes, this is true.
To
I won't
save
defend
him, he wrote a letter before he even told his wife about it, so she had to find out in a newspaper. Good job, Hamilton. And then he advised his son to go in a gunfight and raise his gun because the other person probably wouldn't shoot him, but then he got shot and he died. So nice job again.
Yeah, there's actually some really funny memes out there that's like, because every time Eliza's like, just literally stay, that would be enough, or like come to bed, that would be enough. Like she asks for such simple things.
Yeah.
And he never ever listens to her.
Yeah, I just like, it's hard to like Hamilton. It's hard for me to like Hamilton. I understand all the good things he did for our country, but as a person, don't really like him.
He definitely was arrogant. He had a lot of pride. So there were certainly things about him that I could understand that perspective. I still think that I think why I love it so much, one of the reasons is it's so new and refreshing the way that like Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote it, and also even just the lighting and the movement. And there's like one of my favorite scenes, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. One of my favorite scenes is at the end when Hamilton and Burr are facing off in the duel. That whole setup is just, it gets me every time. I get so emotional. I was crying because it's so beautiful and I just love it so much. I just cry. But I love it. It's this moment where there's no music. It's just Hamilton and you see like, it's just so good and so powerful. I definitely recommend to everyone listening to watch it. And I think it's just pure art and pure beauty, and
definitely brush up on your American Revolution history before.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd ever heard of Burr before.
Aaron Burr. Yeah, he's probably not. He was our second no, he would have been the third vice president because technically Jefferson was the second. Yeah.
I have to say the standout performers, there was two in my opinion, was was it George Washington?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh my gosh, the guy who sings, oh my gosh, his voice is amazing. And Angelica. She was really good. I'm really picky about voices, and I don't really like Lin-Manuel Miranda's voice at all because it sounds like there's a bubble in his throat the whole time. It just like annoys me.
He does have a distinctive voice.
He's got his tone. I don't like his tone.
I understand. I really like it. I think it's because I love Lin-Manuel Miranda and like I just automatically love it. I don't know. But it is distinctive. And that's one of the reasons I do like it. But so you mentioned Christopher Jackson and then you said, who was your second favorite?
Angelica.
Yeah, that's Renee Goldsberry. So
yeah.
Both fantastic.
And then what's Burr's guy? What's his?
Leslie Odom Jr.
Okay, so I totally like he must have a list.
I don't
or
think
something.
he does. I think I don't know what you were hearing. I think you just were biased.
Like
he does not have a list.
No, he has a list.
No, he
Every
doesn't.
time that he would say something with an S, like I would literally be like, "You can't hear that," and she'd be like, "No, what are you talking about?"
He doesn't have a list. Listeners, does he have a list or not?
Yeah, let me know because every time I would try to listen to him. I'm pretty sure that's why I'm so exhausted because I was trying to listen so hard and I was like, what are they saying? Oh, man. Yeah, no. That first 20 minutes was rough, but the second half I enjoyed more because I kind of got used to it. And I feel like they sung a little bit more in the second half too, which made it more understandable.
Yeah, I think you just need to go and listen to it again to fully, because they do kind of jump right into the rapping, and it does, if you're not prepared for it, I can understand how it can kind of like throw you off guard a little bit. So
yeah, but it was funny. It made me laugh at different parts. What's that one guy's?
Jonathan Groff, the king.
Oh yeah, his part was funny.
He's good.
And
he's one of my favorites.
The other guy, the guy that won, the president, the second.
Daveed Diggs? Thomas Jefferson?
Yeah, that guy.
Daveed Diggs, yeah.
See, I can't even remember them
I'm calling both the character, I'm calling the role that they played and also the real actor. Daveed Diggs played Jefferson and Lafayette. And it is interesting to me. I mean, obviously it's a musical. It's not completely historically accurate. You know, they embellished a little bit. And definitely like Jefferson's role, they embellished, but I like how they did it because he was not that flamboyant, but he also he lived in France for many, many, many years. And when he came back, like a lot of people kind of got that vibe from him because he had been in France. So they're all like, he's kind of this weird Frenchman. So he wasn't that flamboyant like he is in the musical, but people kind of thought of him that way. So I thought that how they did it and exaggerating it was fun and added a good element. And Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I agree. One of my favorite is definitely Christopher Jackson. He is a phenomenal singer. Him and Leslie Adam Jr. are probably my two favorite singers. Leslie Adam Jr. was Burr.
Mm-hmm.
I just think their voices are, I mean, all of their voices are really, really good and very talented, but just hearing them is like, they're kind of my favorites. Like one of my favorite songs is One Last Time, which is the one where, Washington sings and he gives all those riffs. He's so good. He's so talented. And yeah, it's just so amazing. I love everything about it.
Yeah, the whole thing is kind of just a blur right now. I'm like,
a little bit of an overwhelm
about.
But even just like the lighting and this, like everything about it, it's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what would you say was your favorite part?
I guess that I like Jonathan Groff's parts when he did the
I'm so blue. Yeah, that's a really good part.
He was funny, and like all of his little, like when he came back on stage, but he wasn't like, it wasn't his time to shine. He still did these funny little
dances and you kind of miss, because if you just listen to it, he has 3 parts. Like he comes in for 3 parts, and you miss in the musical he has moments where he's on stage but not singing at all. So but he is doing things and it's funny. But yeah, if you don't see it, you kind of miss that. But yeah, I really love, because in his numbers, when he's singing, and I'm sorry, I know I'm not saying singing right, whatever, I'm moving on.
Good job. I was totally like practicing with Anne yesterday.
Yeah, it didn't take effect.
It's not going to stick. Just like this history isn't going to stick in my brain.
Yeah, we just have to accept these flaws with each other. But yeah, his movements are like, you expect the king to be super flamboyant and out there, but like his movements are kind of subtle, but they're kind of direct, and it kind of helps to establish, because King George, the real King George, was crazy. Like that's what he was known for. Like he was known as the Mad King because he was insane, and so like it kind of helps give that air of like, because he'll have these very specific movements, and like you just kind of get the idea that this guy's like on edge, and
his facial expression is literally the same the entire time, but it's just like his movements are like. You can't see me, but you can imagine.
He does a really good job. And I think another reason why I love it is, even before Hamilton, I actually had watched the John Adams series, and even growing up as a kid, like me and my family are all history nerds too. We all love history. And I've always had a fascination for the American Revolution, mostly because like we were not supposed to win. There was no one in the entire world, not even like, even some Americans were if you actually look at the history of when we signed the Declaration of Independence, it's actually kind of fitting that we're releasing this episode around this time, with it being the 4th of July. Like you have this image in your mind of like, oh, duh, it was the simplest thing ever. Like everybody wanted to be free. Everyone wanted independence. They signed it. They moved on. The war was easy. They won. No, it was literally the exact opposite. Like they fought for months over the Declaration of Independence, because there were people who were like, if you sign this and we declare independence, we will die. Do not do this. Britain is the greatest power in the world. They have the strongest military. If we declare independence, we're going to die. Don't do this. And then there's the other people who are like, they are unfair. We need independence. That's unjust, the way they treat us. They don't listen to us. We need to become our independent nation. And so it just, all of it fascinates me, because like I said, in your mind, you think that's this easy decision, but it was really hard, because they were really terrified that they would all just die. Yeah. But obviously we're living in a free America, and even like, there was a lot of things that like Washington had to do. Like the way that we fought the American Revolution was unlike any other war. It was completely guerrilla warfare. Like they invented guerrilla warfare, where you run, you hit them, and you run away. And basically their strategy and what ended up working was, as they describe in the musical, but Emily might have missed it because they do kind of go over it quickly. Their strategy was to literally outrun, outlast, like let's literally make this fight unjustifiable for the king to continue. Like because he had to spend a ton of money and effort to get troops to go to America, because they're across the ocean. And so that was their whole strategy, was just like, let's outlive them. Let's make them not be able to justify the cost of the fight. That's literally words from the musical. But yeah, I just love that history. I find it extremely fascinating. The fact that we won literally changed the entire world.
Go us. And by us, I mean the U.S. Yeah. Get it? I'm so funny. I should be like a casting member in there. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. My brain
Emily's
is mush.
so tired.
But do you want to know what I didn't like the most?
Yeah, tell me.
Probably, I just really don't like how they sing Eliza, and like, da, 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 da. I don't know. It's really annoying how they say her name all the time. And they say it like throughout the whole musical. They're like, wait, what's that other word that what's that other phrase that they say? They're like, look around, look around. I hate when they say that.
To be alive right now.
I don't know why I hate it so much. I just don't like the notes. I don't like how they sound. They could make something else sound so much prettier, but they did that one, and I don't think it sounds very pretty.
Well, that's just Emily's opinion, because myself and like millions of other people who have gone and seen the musical and loved it disagree. So I'm just saying.
Okay, that's your opinion too.
Did I say you were wrong? No, I'm just saying. Don't you love it when I do this? I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
I know. I'm sorry. Well, listeners, if you haven't seen Hamilton, I could not recommend enough. I don't know about Emily.
I don't know.
She's on the fence still. Tell you what, maybe at a later date, and I'm not guaranteeing this, but maybe at a later date, Emily will watch it again, and we'll maybe in an intro or something, we'll talk about it again, and maybe we'll see what her opinion is after the fact. After you watching it again.
You see, the thing is, musicals. That was a Broadway show production.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Normally, I only see Broadway productions once in my life. And then I move on with my life and I see other Broadway productions. If it's a musical movie, like Grease, Hairspray, anything like that, I will watch it over and over again because it's just different. So I don't know if I'll watch that again.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. I do. But honestly, when I had learned that they had shot this and that they were preserving the original Broadway cast performing, I was ecstatic because I was like, oh, thank goodness. Because, they were on Broadway. I think Lin-Manuel he played the role for 2 years, but he wasn't on Broadway the whole time because they started in Chicago. But then after their first, the musical started in 2015. That's when they launched it in Chicago. And it very quickly gained a lot of recognition. And within that year or soon after, in 2016, they ended up going to Broadway, which is like usually unreal. It usually takes a couple of years to get on Broadway, but they went within a year. And then I think he performed. So I think he played the role for 2 years, 1 year on Broadway. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm not 100% positive. I think that's what it was. So I mean, all of that to say, you really only had 1 year span to see Hamilton on Broadway with the original cast. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that wasn't going to happen for me. So to be able to see it, it's so special to be able to see the original cast perform. I was able to see the original Chicago cast perform. And it was phenomenal. And I did like that Hamilton. I mean, as much as I love Lin-Manuel Miranda, you're extremely talented. I will love you for forever. But I did actually like his performance better. The Chicago's. Only because I thought that Lin was a better rapper in general, but the Chicago performer, his voice was phenomenal. He did his Hurricane was so good. I liked his version of Hurricane better than Lin's. Hurricane, yeah. That was the song. That's the only song where it's at the end right before Hamilton writes the Reynolds pamphlet. He sings "In the Eye of the Hurricane there's quiet for just a moment."
I don't recall.
Okay. I think Emily's just hopeless, people. That's what we need to determine.
Literally, the whole thing was song. How am I supposed to remember one song
You're
out
right.
of how many songs were there?
I think there's 43.
Yeah, no. There's no way.
I know, I'm sorry.
There is no
You're
way.
right, you're right.
I can't even, assuming. The only thing that I remember is, that's the only thing I remember.
And Peggy.
What's Peggy's role? She was only there for 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, in reality, so Peggy actually ended up, in real life, she passed away when she was very young. She was in her 20s, so she didn't have a huge role to play.
So why was she even there? Why didn't they say that she died?
Well, because they say the Schuyler sisters, so they have to introduce Peggy into it. I don't know.
Sisters is more than one. There was 2.
Exactly. That's why they introduced her, because it's the Schuyler sisters, so they had to introduce all 3. I think you strengthened my point.
No, sisters means more than one.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
So if there's two, that would still mean sisters.
True, but
Which
there
that
were
was my
3
point.
in total in real life, and so I think he just
Well,
wanted to...
then why wouldn't they just say, oh, she died in the musical?
Actually, I think they hint at it. It's a visual. They do hint at it.
Oh.
But
See, they're just not very strong with their delivery, in my opinion. They just say everything too fast. That everything I don't even hear it.
Well, it was your first time, so we'll, like I said, just maybe give it another one. Maybe.
Oh, man, I'm overwhelmed. My brain is going a million miles each direction.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching with me.
You're welcome. But overall, I do think that it is really unique. I like the style that they brought into it with like the rapping, and I think they made it really modern that way, and like the music was really modern, most of it, and it was funny, and it told a story that apparently we don't learn about in school.
Yeah, or at least Emily doesn't. Yeah. Well, and that was, I mean, they say in the musical, like, you know, he died when he was in his 50s, Hamilton did. And so in a way, his founding, like, because all of our founding fathers, like Washington, Jefferson, Adams, like all of them definitely have their stories told, and you know a lot about it. There's a lot of books and references to him. And not to say that Hamilton didn't get that, but just he got it on a lower scale because he died young. Or, well, younger, I should say. I mean, 50 is still a little bit older, but, like, he's died younger than the rest of them. So, Eliza was a huge part of keeping his story alive. And then, obviously, now with this musical, that nobody has to worry about that ever again, because everybody knows who Hamilton is, and nobody knows who John Adams or Jefferson or Monroe or Madison. Nobody knows they are.
Yep.
But, anyway. Well, thank you all so much for listening, and I think we can wrap up the episode now with some life lessons. Emily, what is your life lesson?
My life lesson is, if it's your first time that you're going to watch Hamilton, definitely brush up on your facts and maybe keep a notebook for some facts, or just like get ready to pause and just like think about what you just watched. Maybe ask some questions to somebody who has seen it, just so you make sure you're on the right track.
That is very fair. My life lesson along a similar vein is, if after you watch Hamilton or listen to Hamilton for the very first time, and you're kind of on the fence about it, if you've determined that you absolutely hate it no matter what, there's probably nothing that's going to change your mind. If you've determined that you loved it, well, then you love it. But if you're kind of on the fence, like I feel like Emily is a little bit, my life lesson is give it a second chance, listen through it one more time at least, and then make a determination.
I might listen to the music, but I probably won't watch it. Just because...
Yeah.
I feel like the TV made it harder to understand. Like, if you were listening to it with headphones, it would be easier to understand.
Yeah, their leveling is, because I kind of noticed that too. There were times where I was like, wow, the music is like a little too loud even for like the singing parts. Yeah, so yeah, definitely. And it'll help now that you've seen it, you'll have a lot better context of who's speaking, because that was something I struggled with when I first listened, because they all sounded the same. And I was like, I have no idea who these characters are. But now that you have that context, I think, if you listen to it, just listen, it'll be really good.
Oh, also, I have to quickly bring up the first time that I heard Lafayette, because Anne was like, oh, that's your character that you got in the BuzzFeed quiz. The first time he like sang, I was like, oh, that's his voice.
Which is, Daveed Diggs is one of the best.
Well,
and
I didn't know
raps,
he was French at first.
Oh,
like his
fair,
accent. I was like, what the?
He was exaggerating, yeah.
I liked him better as whoever else. I forgot. Jefferson?
Yeah, yes, good job, Emily.
Yay!
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a lot of really fun Hamilton facts that if you guys want me to share, like maybe I'll do them on our social media.
Oh my gosh, she literally, it's like she practices every day. We have a coworker that is also obsessed with Hamilton, and they're always practicing, and I'm like, and that.
Yeah, I feel bad. I might have given Emily a little bit of a bias against Hamilton.
Yeah, she was singing that one. What was the song called? The one that Angelica sings?
Satisfied.
She sings that one all the time, and I'm just like, oh, that's so annoying. She's just like, but the first time I listened to it, I was like, oh, is that the song that you were always singing? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, it wasn't actually that bad. But then she sang that part again later, and then I was like, yep, actually, it's pretty annoying.
See, yeah, I think I did. I'm sorry, Emily. I'm apologizing now. I think I gave you an unfair bias towards Hamilton because I've seen it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's really funny, though, when she, like, walks into the office in the morning when there's nobody else, like, in our building. And she's, like, walking in just rapping. And I'm like, there's Anne again in a good mood. Ugh.
Singing Hamilton.